My name is McCulloch-Downs, and Aisha's asked me to do a talk about my journey as an artist toward becoming an artist. And I'm not really used to giving talks, so this is my third one, so I've written it all down like a story. So one day I will not leave a note. I'm just going to read it, and then I'm just going to show you some of my artwork. And it's about 10 minutes. I'm more used to writing stories than doing talks, so out of habit I've given this little speech a title, which is From Art College to Activist. I've been an artist for all of my adult life, dating back to the time when I enrolled at Leicester Polytechnic in 1989. But it was only in about the last 15 years that I really found some kind of artistic voice and begun to express myself with sincerity and honesty. But in this time period, I took an interest in all manner of cultures and creative disciplines. I refined my practical painting skills and I became extremely introspective. I expressed my feelings about the world and the human condition in many ways, by writing poetry and novels, by making videos and through painting. Almost everything I did was an attempt to make sense of a complex and an unjust human world. With a strong sense of magical realism and spirituality, I tried to use my imagination to be kind and to solve the problems of the world, at least on paper and canvas. Though some of my work was nihilistic and bleak, most was positive and colourful and exuberant, some of it quite theatrical. Wherever I did, the same underlying themes were always present, that of recognising the depressing realities of the world, coupled with a naive desire to make them better. So I was primed and ready to become an animal rights artist, and in August 2014, that's precisely what happened. I'd written a book of short stories called All That Remains. Carry on with me. This little paperback book just for myself, but it sold a few copies. One of those stories was inspired by the work of undercover investigators in the vegan movement. The story was called The Ghost Camera, and I decided to illustrate it with a portrait of Canadian photographer Joanne McCarthy, a leading light in animal rights activism. And when it was finished, I emailed it to her as a surprise. This event changed my life literally overnight, as the picture went sort of viral on Facebook, getting thousands of shares and comments and a lot of praise. From her home in Toronto, Jo emailed back to me in raptures, crying with joy and sadness, she told me, as she recognised in the painting some of the animals she had saved from farms and factories, as well as some that she'd had to leave behind. We really bonded over that and have been online friends ever since. And the ghost camera picture is quite a rarity now. I found a couple of prints of it and they're on my stall over there, if you'd like to have a look afterwards. After that momentous occasion, I thought I'd try painting one more picture, thinking I'd probably not do any more once that was out of my system. After all, back in 2014, other than the iconic figure of Sue Coe, I'd never heard of any other animal rights artist, and it never occurred to me that I could become one. So it's nice to be standing here today talking about that. I painted Life Sentence, the invisible faces of dairy, which is here, and crammed it full of faces from investigation photographs taken at UK cattle markets. When this picture sold at a charity auction to a public art collection in Stuttgart, I realised that this could actually be a serious option for me, so I gave it some thought and I realised that I felt duty-bound to continue combining my artistic skills with my vegan ethics and try to make some kind of difference in the world. And so one dairy painting became 6, and then came the pig paintings, the hen paintings, the turkeys, the lobsters, the goats, the fish, and so on. At first I wasn't at all certain that I could do justice to any of these ideas, and I'd never before painted rusty metal, mud, straw, feathers or fur. It was a real challenge, as I wanted to set my standards high and really make the most of this amazing opportunity. Any substandard piece of art is a very public embarrassment to its creator, but a substandard piece of animal rights art is a lot worse, as it's detrimental to the cause, as well as disrespectful to the animals it depicts. A lot of people will look for any reason to disregard veganism and to belittle activists, and bad or misjudged campaigning imagery just gives them one more reason to ridicule us. And so I got on with the work, and I found that I had a passion and an aptitude for it, helped immeasurably by the fact that I really do feel a great empathy for each and every one of the animals that I paint. I quickly began to look at art in a very different way, and I felt the urgent necessity to create work with a clear purpose and message. Active art that challenges and changes the viewer. But it hasn't been the smoothest of journeys. I was very naive at first, and I imagined that everyone in my environment would be supportive, but sadly it wasn't so. And not long into the journey, I encountered a few stumbling blocks and I had a few collisions. But this really helped me in the long run, as the answer to these problems was very simple: to work by myself, for myself. That way I could avoid having my work altered or misused in any way, and it left me free to paint whatever I wanted. And so I chose to paint whatever offended me, no matter how grotesque it was. The darker the subject matter, the more I wanted to bring it into the light. I turned the evidence uncovered by investigators into works of art, transforming photographs of truly vile obscenities into finely rendered portraits. Some of my work seems to be almost poetic in its depiction of the quiet dignity shown by farm animals in the midst of appalling degradation. I want these portraits of suffering to stand as an accusation levelled at the viewer, and as a challenge to our barbaric farming methods, and as a memorial to the individual animals they portray. When it's successful, the unusual discipline of activist art can be used to connect the viewer directly with the world as experienced by an animal. It can be a very personal and profound experience if you allow it to be. I myself hate to look at some of my pictures, as they are so painful to see, and 4 of those examples are on the wall over there on display. People have said to me, how do you do it? And the simple answer is controlled fury. Throughout the laborious days of painting and drawing, the anger at what I see before me burns away inside. I take the offensive, the unjust, the cruel, and I show it clearly and without censorship. I get obsessed and often haunted by the work, and it's a genuine relief to release the pictures out into the everyday. We need people as dedicated, I am in awe of activists who fight for animal rights all day, every day. We do need people as dedicated and as strong as them, but I simply couldn't bear it. I've become very aware of my mental limits, and that's why I now also work on positive imagery, celebrating the natural beauty of wild animals. It helps to restore some sense of balance. It's become clear to me over these last 4.5 years that appealing to people's sense of logic using facts and figures has very little effect. Neither does lecturing them, blaming them, or using doom-laden warnings and bloodthirsty imagery. All of those are valid approaches, but first and foremost, the most effective campaigning method is to appeal to the emotions. This cuts straight to the heart and the conscience and stays there. And of course, art is all about emotion, as I'm sure we can all agree experience this exhibition today. I spend a long time thinking about how to make the images effective before I make a single mark on paper. I simply want to hold a mirror up to the world and show it as it really is. In a lot of cases, I add nothing to the image, and this ensures that they are completely accurate renderings of the photographs I use, and therefore I can't be accused of using any artistic license or of bending the truth. After all, there's no need to exaggerate scenes of factory farming. They're already unbelievably dreadful. In these cases, I want the viewer to see straight through the paint and connect with the image, and for them to feel exactly how I felt when I created it. I haven't put my signature on some of these paintings as a mark of respect for the animals. They certainly didn't want to be used in this way, not by me, by the photographer, or by the farm worker. The best activist art I've seen is provocative, disturbing and truthful. And it may seem a strange thing to say, but I feel that this artwork is also very positive, even the worst images. It's a positive thing that it exists, and that the truth is now visible on social media, on clothing, on posters, on banners, and in art exhibitions like today. And it's a positive thing that the vegan cause inspires artists from all over the world to create, educate, and stir the emotions. And on that particular subject, I can't possibly talk about my journey without mentioning the Art of Compassion project, as it's an intrinsic element of the story. It was begun in 2015 by Lee Sanders, a vegan artist living in Spain, and initially consisted of just a handful of artists. I happened to be one of the first, as Lee had seen the ghost camera and life sentence on social media. The formation of this collective was a real turning point in the vegan movement, as for the first time, vegan artists from all over the world had a group to join and a coherent network of like-minded people to talk to. From a handful of artists in 2015 to more than 150 in 2019, the Art of Compassion now also includes writers, actors, poets, sculptors, performance artists, and I think an animator actually after yesterday as well, from many different countries and cultures, all with the shared aim of promoting compassion towards animals. We have an excellent track record of creative collaborations. We've produced calendars, cards, colouring books, sketchbooks, and held many exhibitions. Our latest is here today in this exhibition. The proceeds of these ventures go directly to vegan charities and animal sanctuaries, and to fund our own printing of posters to display at these exhibitions. There really are no limits to the scope or scale of what we can achieve as solo artists or as a collective. And the only rules are that you must be vegan and you must treat other members with respect. That's it. My work has flourished due to this supportive, open-minded environment, and I've made some very close friends with whom I share a deep bond. It's essential to have this network in my life, as this work can be extremely depressing. Our species appears to take great delight in being cruel, and so many people seem determined to remain ignorant of the big issues, like environmental destruction, overpopulation, industrial farming. In the face of this adversity, our voice as activists sometimes seems very small indeed, but our numbers are growing exponentially. The story of the Art Compassion Project is just one indicator of that fact. From 2015, with one person in Spain and a handful of online artists, the collective has expanded, and 2 years later, many of us took part in the Behind Closed Doors exhibition, art exhibition in central London. A few months on from that, the Art of Compassion put on a show at the massive London Veg Fest in Olympia. And last year, things really took off, with us being invited to exhibit at Brighton, Bristol, London and Dublin Veg Fests, as well as in the Netherlands, America, Italy and China, at the Vegstock Music Festival in London, and at the International Animal Rights Conference in Luxembourg, where we've been invited back straight away. And in early 2019, here we are at the LiberationArts Festival, another exhibition organised by one of the original handful of Art of Compassion artists, Aisha Ibri, and the very latest chapter in the story of the ever-expanding vegan art movement. So 4.5 years ago, I painted the ghost camera, and 4.5 months ago, I actually met the subject of that portrait, Joanne McCarthy. She was visiting Bristol to give a lecture, and we had a meal together in Clifton, not far from here. She was incredible, and she bought me a pizza. Her boundless energy, her intelligence, and her compassion were a lesson in how truly great we could all be, and yet so rarely are. But on the long journey from arts college to activism, I've met a lot of people like Joanne, not only vegan artists and photographers, but dietitians, ecologists, school teachers, musicians, zoologists, psychiatrists and journalists, to name but a few. There are sane, kind, active people everywhere, and I'm very proud to have found a way to take my place in this eclectic mix. By contributing to the vegan cause with my artwork, I hope to help encourage even more people to join us on our collective journey towards a more compassionate world. End of part.